What is it with you? What do you got, a death wish or something?
That's what it takes. I just want to race.
All right, Diesel heads, it's episode 21 of the Chronicles of Diesel, the only show that covers everything Vin Diesel, his films, his movies, his games. Like last month, I said movies and films by accident, his music, because we know that there's an album coming. All that and more on the Chronicles of Diesel. It's episode 21. We're getting almost 2 years into this, and we're starting to get into his later movies. This episode is all about the 2014 film Guardians of the Galaxy. But before we go to what happened less than a decade ago, how many years is that? 8? 7?
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
Let's go back only a little bit. What happened last month in Vin Diesel's life, Devin?
Oh, I'm here, by the way. I don't think you just went straight in. You're good.
Yeah.
It's okay.
My name is Ethan. With me here is Devin.
We are
to
Groot.
Talk about modern Vin Diesel stuff.
We are Groot.
I had a really good intro, and I forgot that.
It's okay. I just before we just jumped in, and they're like, "Who are you even talking?" You never introduced
I mean, it's
yourself.
like I said, it's episode 21. We've been doing this for like almost 2 years. You know, people know.
Yeah, or people are just really like Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe, and this will be their first one.
Could be.
But yeah, welcome to the Chronicles of Diesel. Here on the Chronicles of Diesel, at the beginning of every episode, we do VNN, the Vin Diesel News Network. No, I did not put the D in there because it's actually Vin. I think we've always said Vin News Network, but it should really be VDNN. Whatever. We're having a branding issue right now. We'll figure it out later.
DVDNN.
Yeah. But yeah. So usually how we do this is I go to the main source. All right, is a history major. We also go to the primary sources. What's a good primary source? His Instagram. All right, we hear it straight from the man's mouth. There's videos of him talking. That's a primary source. All right, so most of this news that we get is straight from him. I do look on Google, see if there's any articles or if he's done any interviews, but usually he doesn't do too many interviews unless he is doing a movie. A movie's coming out. Maybe he's doing some red carpet stuff or whatnot, or maybe hype for a fast movie. But in this past month of November, we have a lot of posts. Usually his average is around, I would say, 8 or 9. But this month, he has, and this is, we're recording.
23.
22.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you're pretty.
See...
Pretty
if this was a game show right now, my guesses are pretty damn good without any context.
Yeah,
How hard would it be?
22 posts. We're still 5 days left of November, so maybe, just maybe, we might get a couple more. But right now, as we're doing this, 22 posts. And I'm not going to go through every one, but I'm going to point out some big ones or fun ones that I found here. Let's go back to November 2nd. November 2nd. There's a video of him. Looks like he's in like an Uber or a taxi or something. And he's doing a video, kind of like a vlog style video. And it is him in New York City. And he says he's driving by the East River. So if you're from New York City, you know where that is. I don't. If you know where that is, that's where Vin was on November 2nd. And he had the caption "New York State of Mind, all love always." And in the video, he says New York is basically on the up and up, like it's coming up. And he says New York will always grow as well. I don't know what he means by that. I think New York City's probably the biggest well-known city in the entire world, so I don't know how much bigger it can get, especially considering that their infrastructure is garbage. But I've only been to New York City a couple times. Maybe Vin knows more than me. But yeah, New York State of Mind. I'm not sure if this is a reference to a Billy Joel song or the rapper Nas.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one it is because they both have done songs called New York State of Mind. Knowing Vin, honestly,
Vin, it's Billy Joel.
That's what I'm saying. But he also grew up in the 90s, so maybe it's Nas. I don't know. There's a classic song in the 90s. That's November 2nd. But then he kind of keeps with his whole state of mind thing, because he does another post like the next day that says that Dom state of mind. A lot of my creative life has lived within that character, his strengths, limitations, haha, and most of all, his meaningful relationships that he protects at all costs, his beliefs, his values, his code. Sorry, reflecting. I just heard about the 8 People's Choice nominations, and it just made me feel grateful to it all. Hashtag Fast Saga. So yeah, the People's Choice nominations came out, and Fast 9 got a whole bunch. We have Action Movie Star of 2021. We have the movie of 2021, so like the best movie of 2021.
Wow.
Vin Diesel himself got Male Movie Star of 2021. Yeah, those are the main big ones. There's a couple other ones, but those are the main big ones. And he posts on his Instagram clips from the movie with the nominations. So yeah, we'll see probably next month if he wins them, because I'm pretty sure it's in December. Then he did a video of F. Valentino Morales, who was he's one of the dispatchers in Fast and the Furious, the first one there, and he's in a XXX movie, and he produced F9 and Furious 7, so he's kind of like a friend of the Fast and Furious folks. But he did a video of him and Valentino like together. He's doing a video, and he was saying how happy he is that he got his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Really?
And he said it took him like 10 years, whatever. But all about the family with them, and they were hyping him up. So I thought that was kind of cool. Then we had the big news. So if you follow our Twitter account and you do follow the show, I'm sure you follow Vin Diesel. You probably saw this post. And we've talked about it. You've talked about it too in a couple episodes ago when we talked about the Rock versus,
right?
The Rock versus Vin drama that was happening in the when they were together doing the Fast and Furious movies. And he did a post. This is on November 7th. He posted this, and it was a picture from I believe Fast 6, of him and the Rock looking at each other, up and down like as they were gonna fight or something. He posted
sizing
that picture.
each other up.
Yep. And he posted, here's the caption: "My little brother Dwayne, the time has come. The world awaits the finale of Fast 10. As you know, my children refer to you as Uncle Dwayne in my house. This is not a holiday that goes by that they and you don't send well wishes. But the time has come. Legacy awaits. I told you years ago that I was going to fulfill my promise to Pablo. I swore that we would reach and manifest the best Fast in the finale that is 10. I say this out of love, but you must show up. Do not leave the franchise idle. You have a very important role to play. Hobbs can't be played by no other. Hope that you rise to the occasion and fulfill your destiny." That's the post. I want to ask you, how do you take that on just with all this context?
I think there's what he intended, and I think there's how it comes off. I think the intent is Vin Diesel really loves the idea of movies and making films and being a part of storytelling, and storytelling to him is almost the most important thing one could do because it's a legacy and yada yada. And maybe I'm hyperbolic here, but that's kind of what I think he thinks about storytelling and stuff. So I think when he sees this is a plea of hey, when he says destiny, I think he really does mean it to a degree. How it comes off as extremely demeaning, extremely petty, because it's public. He's calling him out.
Yeah.
The fact that he opens up with little brother Dwayne, and even if he's older, he's much shorter. And we know that the Vin and Rock beef is about who's more macho type of stuff. And Vin had a little bit of that, I don't like the fact that this guy's easily stronger and bigger than me, no matter how hard I try. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
to me, when I read this...
I personally would never call anyone my little brother. Even my own... I have a younger brother. I probably would never be I would only say that if I'm trying to get under his skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also the fact when he says, "My kids call you Uncle Dwayne," we also know his kids call Ruby Rose Aunt Ruby Rose or Aunt Rose. They're not related. They probably just call every actor like that Vin has introduced to his kids, uncle this, aunt this. So that doesn't really mean
he's
much.
family. We know this.
I know, that's true. And we also saw that video of all those Dominic Toretto lookalikes saying family over and over again.
Yeah.
Which I assumed isn't in your thing because it's not actually Vin Diesel.
No, but I did retweet it with the account.
Yeah. To me, I feel like this was a bad move. And I remember seeing, was it Rahul Kohli? Someone tweeted that I follow.
Rahul, yeah.
Okay, saying if a coworker or co-star did this to me, I would not come back out of spite because this is extremely petty to do. I'm paraphrasing what he said.
Yeah.
And like that's how I kind of look at it too. I don't see this. What I see if I'm The Rock right now is seeing like, okay, he's weaponizing fans against me. Because if I say no, even if he does nothing in response to me saying no or me just not doing anything, fans are going to get pissed. Because apparently I had the option to and I chose not to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It honestly could have even just been like, maybe we don't know anything behind the scenes. Has anyone reached out to Dwayne to say if he's interested? Like, we know he said like what they said back then. That was 10 years ago at this point, maybe longer. It's like, yeah, maybe he would have come back, but like, I feel like doing this
is bad.
Yeah. Unless we don't know, maybe Dwayne's agent or whoever said like, oh hell no, he's not doing this, and then so now Vin's trying to like talk to him directly. That also could be it. Not saying he should do it this way still. But I do have a news article.
I just want to say, if your kids call him Uncle Dwayne, you have his phone number.
Yeah. Call the man.
You can reach out to him directly.
Text them, something. Leave him a voicemail.
Exactly.
But I have this is from cinemablend.com. Hobbs and Shaw producer reacts to Vin Diesel asking The Rock to return for final Fast and Furious movie. I'm going to quickly pull quotes here. This is this is from the producer of, like I said, Hobbs and Shaw, and he said, let me make sure I get his name right. Hiram Garcia, $7 production. Garcia was asked by Screen Rant what he thought about Diesel's request, and he responded with the following: "Look, you can never predict or control what's going to come out of that world. So I'm very used to it by now. I think we're both very used to it. I know I haven't been able to really connect with DJ, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, I'm assuming, on it because he's been buried in promoting Red Notice, movie that's out right
apparently
now.
Awful.
But yeah, I'm used to it. It's what comes with that world. You can get crazy curveballs thrown and you just roll with it." And then he said, "It's the Fast family. Look, DJ's the biggest movie star in the world. No biggest movie star in the... Sorry. It's the Fast family. Look, DJ's the biggest movie star in the world. No one's below trying all attempts and approaches to try and get him on board. So I appreciate it. You got to take your shot. You never know. I'm sure there's a couple DMs that slid in there too. I'm sure he slid the DMs as well." So that's what his opinion is on it. But I thought that was good to get someone else's opinion has worked with both of them at some point and can at least say that. So maybe this isn't, like you said, maybe the intent isn't malicious in any ways, but maybe how it comes across is. But I do like that all the comments just say family, family, family. And someone said, Kenneth Johnson, I don't know who this is, wrote, "Show up, rocking with Vin, despite anything. F10 will be beyond epic." Someone said, "We want The Rock back." He says, "I agree." Someone wrote, "I agree. After all, you guys are family." Like,
oh my god.
Like,
yeah. I mean, my fear is that this will get gross and ugly. That like fans are being weaponized for this. I can think of 2 instances off the top of my head of popular media films fans bullying to get something they want happened. One was good, the Sonic movie CG redo. And one was extremely toxic, the Sony Pictures Spider-Man stuff with Disney.
Yeah.
Where like, hey, you aren't being good guys here. It doesn't even matter if they win or lose in your mind. This is still very much wrong.
Or even like any of
I mean?
like the Star Wars actors through the last 25 years. How many of them?
Right.
And I'm not even talking about the...
But I just mean more about
the new
like...
ones. I'm talking about like prequels too. Like people got
sure.
death threats and shit.
My point though is like weaponizing fans to get something done, rather it's just being dicks online for the sake of it.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I guess it all depends. I mean, Dwayne The Rock Johnson seems like the type of person that would just be the bigger man and just do it. If if he's willing to be in a shitty movie like Red Notice, he's probably gonna be in Fast 10.
Yeah, we also could know it could come down to money at the end of the day too. Maybe The Rock thinks he needs to get paid the most, which is fair considering he's been one of the biggest actors in the last 5 years. Like literally, you put him in anything, it gets money. Like even I'm sure Red Notice, even if it's bad, is gonna get money because it has him in it.
That was a Netflix produced thing, so I guess money is just views. Like subscriptions or whatever.
Views and subscriptions, yeah. But he also hasn't responded, and I do follow The Rock on social media, and he hasn't said anything. He's posted him working out and whatnot. So either A, the noise, he doesn't care. I mean, he's done wrestling, you know what I mean? Like he's probably used to fans. So if anybody I think is kind of prepared for this, it might be The Rock. Honestly, like. Because in WWE they have to fake drama and shit. And how many times have people probably taken it too seriously and like said shit to him, and he's probably just had to roll it off his sleeves. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we love Vin here. We're biased a little bit, but at the same time, Vin, we don't know if this is your best move, bud.
Yeah, I think that was a bad call to do it.
But I do hope that they both do come together and they do make. I hope The Rock is in F10. I mean,
see how I feel like a better way of going about it while also still trying to do the thing he was doing is just putting out a general, hey, Fast 10 is a thing I am so proud and happy to be a part. I want to thank everyone that's been a part of this series, this franchise, this destiny. Whether they're coming back or not. You know what I mean? Something like that doesn't directly call them out, but it's also like, hey, I would really like you back type of thing. But I do remember for Fast 9, promotion leading up to it, and this might have even been in 2020 when it was supposed to come out in whatever, month in 2020, The Rock publicly congratulating Vin in a similar type of thing, like just a public kind of like shout out, not a call, but a shout out. And he was treating that as if like it's done type of thing. Like, hey, we made something special together type of thing. And it almost isn't like, hey, I'm done with these still, FYI, I'm done. Like
happy you're doing your
congratulations.
Thing. Happy you're doing your thing, but like
exactly.
I'm gonna do Hobbs and Shaw at most.
Right, and that has nothing to do with Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
So
my thing, do you want to make, I mean, I'm not doing a bet or anything, but for F10, do you think The Rock will be in it in any sort of fashion? I personally think at most we will get a like cameo or a phone call, something in the scene. I mean, I feel like he'll be in it for a minute tops. Honestly, if I'm being real, I'll be the most hype thing
ever if he was like showing up in a fight scene or something. Like he shows up to save the day, and we didn't know he was in the film. Maybe,
yeah.
But honestly, my real prediction. He is not in it at all. Unfortunately,
I think if there was a Vegas, over under, I think it's definitely leaning towards him not being in it. And then I feel like I said, at most it'll be a cameo. It'll be one scene. He gets a phone call, or he's like, "I'll send you guys that'll come help you," or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that will be it. Or maybe he's at the end of the film.
Movies?
He's at the end of the movie, like they're all going to be standing there or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
as like an Avengers-esque of like all, like in the end of Endgame where everyone's standing there together. Like it'll be something like that where he's in it,
or like the ending of Street Fighter.
Or the ending of Street Fighter, something like that. He might even not be there with them. They could just green screen him in.
Yeah, and this is also 2 movies, so like if he doesn't pop up in whatever this one's called, he'll be maybe in the second one. Maybe it'll, his mind will change then. I don't know, but I honestly don't think he will be in it, unfortunately. Because as we know, he was like the best part of the movies he was in.
Yeah. A couple more things here. Sorry, it's a long VNN, but I feel like this is good. This is one of the biggest news we've gotten all year. I'm sending you this. There is a a couple days later, he just posts this on his Instagram. It's a picture of just him on a tractor, and I'm like, this is a vibe. Right here, like this is just to me, like he has a lot of selfies and whatnot, but this one is the most relatable to me. Because I'm like, I've never owned a tractor like this, but like it just reminds me of like doing yard work. Like I've done that.
Sure.
And he's just there. He's just doing peace
Yeah.
sign, and he's doing something in his backyard. And he just had the caption smile. I just had to point that one out.
His captions are always something like that.
Or
You know what I
long,
mean?
yeah. But like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I think made the Rock one so like out of the blue for me, is that it was such a long paragraph. Usually he writes at most like 3 to 4 sentences, not a full length thing. Then after that, he posted a picture of him as Riddick. I'm not sure if this is from one of the posters or one of the games. Maybe, I don't remember. This is a great meeting today. Very excited about the next chapter. #Furin. We've seen him do shit like this before, where he posts a picture of one of his classic characters and he says, "Oh, we're working on it." But there's been a lot more, so I really think we're gonna get a new Riddick movie within the next, and at least an announcement, like more formally. I think within the next year. I really do believe that. Just by the amount of times he's posted. Then another fun thing is he did a video with I believe his mother and Ed Burns, who was in Saving Private Ryan with him. And Vin is talking in this video to Ed and to his mother about how long ago Saving Private Ryan was, and how that was the first time he took his mother to Europe. We mentioned that last month, that like
Right.
he really wanted to do that, and he appreciates all that. But I just thought it was a cool little video. He did a video of him on his private jet with his kid. I'm like, he's stunting low key. He did a video of him and Will Smith's new book. He wrote, "My son got me a copy of Will's new book. He knows I love a good biography." Well, you may not know, and here's some crazy Vin trivia we didn't know until now. So this is breaking news, I guess. Well, breaking news is something that happened a long time ago. My son got me a copy of Will's new book. He knows I love a good biography. What he may not know is that Will and his daughter, Willow, were generous and thoughtful enough to sing happy birthday to him virtually when we celebrated my son turning 2 at his London birthday. The whole Fast cast was there, including Pablo, but it was very cool that the Smiths showed up for the Diesels. Excited to crack this bad boy open. Haha, I'll love always. So there you go.
Aw.
Will Smith... And Will Smith's been in the news recently by saying he had so much sex that it became a problem when he orgasms.
I didn't know that.
Like he said, he felt like it's like the worst post-nut clarity, I guess.
Ugh.
Like he said, he vomited and shit. He's
Gross.
and like I saw a meme where someone did like that. There's that dude, like that one chef in the back who's like smoking a cigarette meme. That picture, and it just says like, "This is Will Smith's publicist every year." Like just because Will Smith just says shit that is just like out of this world.
Yeah.
And Will Smith, I'm sure, is a great guy, but like, yeah, he just says like very, very stuff that should honestly just be private.
Maybe that's why Jaden Pinkett Smith left him.
Yeah. He did another Dom State of Mind post. So he's in a state of mind right now.
Nice.
There's a video of him backroading in his like ATV thing in a Pacific
Cool.
island somewhere. He didn't say what island. He just said, "I'm in the Pacific island." He didn't say which one. There's a lot of islands.
Probably doesn't even know.
There's a whole bunch. Also, do you know... I'm sending you another Instagram thing here. So I don't know if this is... Do you know if this is like a video game company? Or have you seen this logo anywhere before? So for people, audio listeners, all the audio listeners, he's wearing a sweatshirt that has like a warthog on it. And I'm not sure if it's like a game studio, a movie studio, something else.
No, I don't know. Maybe it's an ARC thing.
That's what I thought. But I was like, but you're usually better than me at knowing like video game logos.
Yeah.
So if you don't know it, then who knows? But if someone knows, let us know. They did another video of him. He didn't speak in this one, but it's just him driving his ATV again. And I tried to look up the ATV, but I couldn't find any logo on the ATV, so I have no idea what brand it is because I wanted to see how much it was worth to see if we can get one for ourselves.
Yeah. We got to get one of those scooters he
Yeah.
did the commercial for, too.
Then he did another post, which actually ties into our episode, weirdly enough. He did a shout out to Dave Bautista. He said,
Nice.
He did one of the thing, and it's a picture from when Riddick is fighting him. So the last one we did. So kind of just funny that we just talked about it, and that he's going to be in this movie we're talking about,
right.
Guardians of the Galaxy. He says, one of the things I love about the Riddick mythology, as I'm reading all the new material coming in from DT, is how rich each character is. Diaz. By the way, I'm so proud of all that my brother Dave Bautista is doing in the film space. Such a great talent. So, and he tagged him. and then he did another picture of his ATV, and it does look nice. But yeah, that's all the news that I got for you. That was a long one. Apologies for that, but a lot of good information, a lot of shout-outs.
All the news fit to make you say Vin Diesel.
Yeah, a lot of shout-outs to actors and maybe call-outs too.
Yeah.
But so we'll see what the future holds. But I think maybe next month we might have a album. Maybe.
It'd be interesting.
Maybe. Or maybe The Rock responds. There's a lot of things that could happen.
Yeah. I'm assuming that when he drops his album, we'll do a special episode that's a review of the album, for sure.
We'll do a track-by-track breakdown.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you, Devin. I appreciate all the work you do on the news front of Instagram. Let's hop back in time to 2014.
Great year.
And talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. Like I said, released in 2014, written by James Gunn and Nicole Perlman, and directed by James Gunn. This movie had a estimated budget of $232 million. A
lot of money.
Devin, I always make you guess. What do you think the box office was for this?
I think I kind of cheated because I was looking up this movie earlier, but like just random actors. I think I remember seeing it. Wasn't it around 700?
772 million.
Oh, is it closer to 800?
Still in the sevens, and I know you're really bad at guessing stuff. So before we start recapping this film, and I have ideas on how we'll do that, I want to add some facts. For a lot of the movies, I can't really find any how did Vin Diesel get the role? Really, he auditioned and got it. There's not really a whole lot of good stories, you know what I mean, about it. But I have stuff for this. So first off, I will say, Vin Diesel motion capped for Groot. He wasn't just the voice. Vin Diesel practiced his motion capture during filming of Furious 7 by walking around on stilts. And there's old photos of him on stilts.
But I know, I also was reading that Sean Gunn did some of the motion capture for Groot, it was Rocket the Raccoon.
Yeah, they were stand-ins, not really motion capture. They stood there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And one of the lines towards, I guess maybe beginning of the third act or end of the second act, Sean Gunn ad-libbed and as Rocket. He just made it up or whatever. But yeah, no, for this movie, for the CG characters, they basically had to shoot every scene twice. One with the props or stand-ins and one without, so that they could CG them in, I guess, or they have different things. But yeah, so Vin Diesel is Groot, as we know.
Wait, what?
He told people he was Groot before it was announced. And it was an awkward era because Kevin Feige is we think we're getting close to having Vin Diesel be Groot. Because Vin Diesel let it out of the bag without actually saying.
Well, just before the press said anything.
Well, I have the full story here.
Oh, okay.
Now, longtime listeners of the Sonic Movie Show know that we have a bit of a mystery. We are so confused, and of course we could Google this, and we don't. Our long mystery is, what the hell does Maria Menounos do? Besides be in front of movies before the trailers happen to talk about stuff. Well, in 2013, she started a YouTube interview series.
Oh.
And in 2013, she interviewed Vin Diesel to talk about Riddick. And at the end, 50 minutes in, she starts asking him about Marvel stuff. And this is how he tells the story. Basically, this is where he confirms it, that he is Groot, before anyone else said it.
But is this before anyone else said, like Chris Pratt saying that he was going to be Star-Lord and shit?
So those people all got casted before Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel did.
Gotcha.
So the films got greenlit in 2012, and obviously 2 years later it would come out in 2014. Mid-2013 is when Vin Diesel was Groot, and a similar time frame for Bradley Cooper. But yeah, so I have a transcript that I fucking wrote for this because I couldn't find it.
I like
anywhere.
how this is in the 50-minute mark, so it easily could have been missed. You know what I mean? Thankfully,
someone timestamped it in the YouTube comments. They didn't even say anything. They just wrote like the timestamp for 50 minutes in, and I clicked it. I'm like, maybe this is the Groot thing because I'm skipping every 5 minutes to try to find him say something. Okay, so Maria Menounos says, your daughter said yes to Groot. And Vin Diesel says, my daughter said yes to Groot, my new manager, my messiah. I came home and I had a giant... Marvel, they're so shrewd. I mean, you have to understand, when I met with Marvel, it wasn't for anything immediate. It was to talk about a film that would be introduced in the Phase 3 of Marvel. So not for a few years. You wouldn't be able to see it in a few years. So in my mind, Marvel was doing it right. They were enrolling me at the ground level, which is the best way to enroll me. And I had heard over the last year, people on social media page were saying, what's it, Vin? Why aren't you going to Marvel? Why aren't you doing anything with Marvel? It would be a crime of cinematic history for you not to be with them.
That's awesome.
And so I'm thinking this Marvel thing is really becoming really important to people. Okay, what can I do? I get the call. I go down, I meet with Marvel. A great meeting. Use trumpet for this tiny moment. A great meeting. I mean, it was even talking about something so big I can't even talk about because it's like the merging of brands in a way in which I won't get into, but that was way down the road. This happened a week before Comic-Con, and then he goes on to say that he went to Comic-Con for Riddick, the 2013 film. They showed a clip for Riddick. Riddick wasn't out yet. This was like this is probably where the Blindsided thing was shown. Probably this, because he said he hadn't been to Comic-Con since Pitch Black. So this is probably that same Comic-Con we talked about last month. He says, I go through all the Riddick questions, and at the very end, there is a guy. And there's been this guy standing at the microphone for the last 15 minutes, and I'm cutting some stuff in and out here. And he said, Vin, can you tell us what the vision of your Marvel-Vin relationship will be? And the whole audience erupted, and I was a deer in headlights. And then he goes on to talk about how he loves the fans more than the industry. But he wants to respect the process since every company is different on the rollout of different, reveals and stuff. So I just said, you're going to hear some really big news. And he says that he thinks Marvel got blindsided by how invested the audience was at the idea of him being in one of those movies.
Interesting.
He says how Marvel then reached out and said that they wanted to do something with him now and not just in the future. Whoa. But he didn't have time to play a new character. He had like 6 months of time between like whatever next film was coming up or something like that. He had 6 months because he was working on Furious 7 while he was like working, on Guardians stuff. As I mentioned, he was practicing walking around on stilts on the set of Furious 7. He said he didn't have time. Then Kevin Feige and James Gunn sent Vin the script to Guardians of the Galaxy and concept art. And Vin has a sidebar here where he talks about how he loves conceptual art, how that gets him in more than what the characters say. And this is a fact that I didn't know, that I feel like we should have known. He says that he agreed to the Dominic Toretto role before even getting the script because director Rob Cohen described a scene of the character. And Vin Diesel says yes. The scene was the camera goes through his eyes, down his arm, into the clutch, and he's racing. And he's like, I like that.
I mean, if that's how you work, but like, you know what I mean? I respect that because it makes a lot of sense too with like maybe with him in video games like Ark. You know what I mean? Like that he sees something like Ark as like big concept art, you know what I mean? Because because I remember that one Instagram post he did where it was like a book of like all the different like places and it was like basically a encyclopedia of everything in Ark, and he was posting about that, how much he, or not how much he liked it, but just I remember he did a video about it. So it honestly makes a lot of sense though. I feel like it makes a lot of sense. He says
he's really inspired by conceptual art.
So maybe that's how we get him on the show. We draw a picture
of him on a microphone saying this could be you having fun. Yeah. He then says how the art for Guardians, they sent him a book of all the concept art along with the script. He said how the art for Guardians was the best he had ever seen, but they wanted him to play a tree. He says, but he does, and he's very confused at this point, but he does say there was something akin to the Iron Giant about the tree. And he goes on to say how much he respected Andy Serkis's role as Golem. He said that, that's such a challenge. How do you do that? That's so fascinating. That's exciting. And he does say he always has a soft spot for the Iron Giant.
Shout out to the Iron Giant.
He says that a character that only says one line is like the challenge of David Twohy saying he was going to play a character that doesn't interact with anyone in the first act of Pitch Black. Well, that's a challenge for him, and he was excited. He said, I thought of it as an insanely fun challenge. And then he says that he took one of the pictures of the concept art, which is all 5 of the Guardians standing like next to each other, staying together, and he brings it to his kids and asks them, who do you think they want Daddy to play? And his daughter immediately points at Groot.
That is
so
adorable.
That's how I knew.
That's adorable. Yeah. Holy shit.
He says that's how he knew.
I like that he we know everyone jokes with the whole family thing, but he legitimately takes that shit to heart. Like he literally like that one post I mentioned earlier today, or in this episode where he says like how much of Dom is part of him. Like he pulls things, that are important to him like family. Like everyone memes about it, but like the fact that he goes to his kids and asks what they think about it, that says something.
And they were young too. This was like 7 years ago, and his kids aren't super old, now.
Yeah.
Right. So then James Gunn's opinion on Vin. Many voices were tested for Groot, but James Gunn said Vin was easily the best. James Gunn also basically cut Chris Pratt's audition off after 30 seconds and said, yeah, he's got it. So that's the mindset James Gunn is at.
I feel like
lot
James
of people
Gunn
auditioned.
Very, he's a visionary where he knows.
He's like, I know what I want.
Yeah. He doesn't need you to do a whole long thing. I feel like he can just look at someone and be like, yeah, I can work with this. He sees canvases,
I have this little interview bit from Gunn as well, much shorter. But he says, the ways in which Vin Diesel says, I am Groot, I am astounded, Gunn says. He explained that while other attempts to recite Groot's simplistic vocabulary comprised only of the phrase, I am Groot, nobody came close to Diesel. All of the I am Groots that were earlier voices didn't sound very good at all. They sounded like shit. It just didn't really work. Then Vin came in one day, laid down all these I am Groot tracks, and he's a perfectionist. He made me explain to him with every I am Groot what exactly he was really saying. Then Vin would sit there and he would do it, and he would do it again and again and again. And his voice is so rich and so beautiful, and he really opened up and was this character. It was amazing when we first put that voice in there and how much the character changed and how much he influenced the character. So, match made in heaven.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I think people overlook, characters like this, or in the Iron Giant. We really like that movie, and while it didn't really have many lines, or wasn't really lines, it was just kind of grunts and whatnot. He gives emotion to that character. And I was curious once we got to this one, would we feel the same way? We'll have to see at the end.
We'll talk about it.
But and it's funny that I remember before we watched it, Bryn was like, "Wait, why are we watching this again?" I'm like, "Oh, for Chronicles of Diesel," and she's like, "Wait, Vin's in this?" And I'm like, she's like, "Wait, oh yeah, that's right. He's Groot," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's Groot," and it's you kind of forget about it. But I think it's kind of a good thing in my opinion. But we'll get.
I have 2 more Vin Diesel facts before we begin. Mm-hmm. First off, Vin does the I am Groot stuff in a lot of different languages. He is it's his voice for the Russian, for the French, for a bunch of different languages.
That's awesome.
It's the exact same thing. Yeah. And then this is Vin Diesel says this about the role in a little bit of retrospect. He says, it was the first time I came back to dealing with human beings after dealing with the death of Paul Walker. So playing a character who celebrates life in the way Groot does was very nice.
Damn.
So, yeah. Yep. I got some other facts as well, but we'll read those off as we go through.
Can we just kind of quickly go over it again? So, when he announced it, what was it in that interview when he announced it?
So
ahead of time when he wasn't technically supposed to?
The timeline is he's talking with Marvel about something in Phase 3. Some other character thinking about he wants to be in there. We're trying to figure it out. I think it'd be hilarious if he was going to be Black Panther. How awful that would have been.
I don't think it would have been Black Panther, no.
Well, because a lot of people were like, oh, is fucking what's his name? That was in Inception.
I know what actor you're talking about, but I don't remember his name.
He runs on the walls or whatever in that one fight scene. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. he's not in any of these Marvel movies, but everyone's like, oh, when's he going to be in it? Everyone's talking about it. So I feel like a lot of these actors, and Kevin Feige, when asked about that guy, was like, we were talking with him. Sometimes we're talking in general, sometimes we're talking specific. We're always talking with people. So I think Vin Diesel was like that. So that's the timeline. They're just talking in general. Then Vin goes to Comic-Con 2013 to talk about the Riddick movie, and someone asks him basically what's his vision for him being in a Marvel movie, and he just says, I got really big news. Which then prompts Marvel to be like, well, we could put you in something now.
Yeah.
So in 2013, they cast him then, like a couple weeks later.
I think Vin knows how to play his cards sometimes. Maybe not all the time like we saw with The Rock. Or maybe it will work out and we'll be the dumb ones. But I think he knows how to like get hype out of people, it seems like. He knows what buttons to hit.
And so like while he's filming Furious 7, he's not really sure if he's actually Groot or not, but he's still practicing anyway, and he's assuming he is, but then Marvel's like, well, hold on, nothing's confirmed type of stuff.
Gotcha.
Because like someone in an interview showed Kevin Feige the photos of Vin Diesel walking around on stilts. And he's like, he's walking around on stilts. He's like, yes, he is. He's like, am I nuts here? He's like, I mean, I don't know. He's a little nuts. So, but yes. Yeah, let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy 2014. Now, for the recaps for these, we've historically gone super in detail. And in the past few, we've done kind of like just a bullet points list of events. Here is even going to be more bullet pointed-y because I'm pretty sure, I'm just going to generalize, you probably have already seen this movie. This is, I think, my third or fourth time seeing this movie.
Yeah, same.
Last time I seen it was 3 years ago in 2018. Leading up to Infinity War.
Same.
But still, like, I know this movie well enough, you know what I mean? We don't need to go into too much specifics. So we'll basically kind of go, like, scene by scene or just general thing by general. We'll talk about the things we think are cool. Maybe we'll focus a bit more on Vin, or I don't know how we want to do this. But, yeah, so anyway, movies opens up. It's the 80s. Peter is a kid, and his mom dies of cancer. And immediately, this is when I knew, oh, yeah, this is the first Marvel movie after the Disney acquisition. You can tell because they killed a mom. Classic Disney thing, killing moms.
Is this really when it was? Was it?
I think this was like Disney like bought Marvel a couple years earlier, but like this was like one of the first movies, if not the first, to begin after. Like it wasn't in the middle, if that made sense. Gotcha. And then like my joke is that Disney had a hand in it and said kill his mom.
Yeah.
But maybe that happens in the comics. I don't know. 26 years later, Peter is on a planet called Morag to get some artifact, some orb thing. And he's attacked and chased by Ronin's men. Bad guys, they also want that orb. They're going to take him to the bad guy.
I also want to say I've always loved this opening. So I think it's one of my favorite openings in...
I like it too.
In Marvel movies. I also realize
I do misremember it, though. I always think that it begins with the music, and it doesn't.
Yeah, you're right. But I just remember, like, I just remember when he's dancing and the title screen pops up. Yeah. And I always thought that was a very like just cool way to do it. Also,
I like an in-game where they made fun of that or whatever. Like no one actually hears the music because it's in his headphones.
Yeah,
so he's just dancing to nothing. You know, from other people's perspective. We get some character introductions with Yondu and the Ravagers. There's like a woman that he slept with the night before he forgot. Some fact that I couldn't verify said that she's wearing the same t-shirt he wore when he was a kid and being abducted. So it could be the same t-shirt.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
I don't really buy that. I don't know. Maybe it is. Who knows? We also get the character introductions of the bad guy Ronin, as well as Gamora and Nebula. And this is knowing now where we're at with these Marvel movies and like who these characters are. Going back to this, like, yeah, they are introducing a lot of the stuff. And it is a little weird. Like, some of the characterizations don't really feel like the same anymore on some of these people. But it's interesting how, like, quickly they're just like, yeah, here's just some people. Here's just some people. And I do want to say, the Ronin Kree, his spaceship, his rituals, all that stuff, very much reminds me of the Chronicles of Riddick now. With this like dark fantasy space like type of stuff.
It also has borderline H.R. Geiger alien vibes too, but more of a
like the black ichor flowing through like the little tiny channel, you know.
Honestly, even
stuff.
Probably the other way around, but like even parts of Dune too, a little bit, where that like very like he's gothic mixed with like high fantasy kind of look. Definitely a space thing, classic space thing. I actually really dig his look though in general. I always thought like he was cool looking. So plus one for me.
This was also the first time watching this movie that I fully understood like the politics and what people are talking about. Because you're seeing it the first time in theaters, it goes by you. You know what I mean?
I just saw Eternals, and there's a little bit more like Eternals shit that like is mentioned in here, and I'm like, okay, this kind of, if anything, kind of worked out for me. I just saw Eternals a week ago.
I haven't seen Eternals yet,
but
unfortunately.
Just watching this, being like, oh, that's a little cool little, I guess, nod indirectly for that, because I don't think at this point they knew that they were going to make Eternals. But there's stuff in this where I'm like, oh, yeah. Also, I totally forgot, like, this is when Thanos is pretty much introduced, right?
He was teased at the end of Avengers, shown, and he doesn't say anything. But yeah, this is where he's introduced. And James Gunn, at one point, was deciding to cut him from the movie altogether. But, like, I had to keep it. The only thing I think that he was told he needed to keep in it was to introduce the Infinity Stones. Like, they needed to be introduced in the movie.
Gotcha. Also, I've always liked Gamora and Nebula. I always thought they were cool.
Yeah. Nebula is played by Karen Gillian, I think is her name. And she was in that weird show, Doctor Who. On a planet called Xandar, we are introduced to Rocket and Vin Diesel, a.k.a. Groot. And I like this, too.
It's funny that the first scene is... and this is the question I have. Did Vin actually have to drink water? Because like he was drinking water or something. Like, did he drink water? Like, did they give him like a fountain to drink out of? And they're like, here, record this.
This is also where like I haven't seen this movie since we started this podcast project. So my listening to Vin Diesel prior to this podcast is like I couldn't really just picture it being Vin Diesel. I don't know. Yeah. But now I can hear his voice, because he doesn't just say "I am Groot." He also makes like "ah" type of sounds sometimes as well.
He yells at
and
one point.
It's 100%
like he's yelling and
Vin Diesel.
You know,
screaming
and shit. Yeah,
and that's Vin Diesel. 100%. Like you can tell. Like like it's weird. Like I'm conditioned now to recognize this man's voice.
Yes, exactly. But it's funny. He never says "I am Groot" until like a little bit later. Like it's not even in the scene. He doesn't really say anything. Yeah.
I think they probably figured it'd be funnier to have him say it to someone asking who he is.
Yeah.
And then have the same answer be repeated to a different question, and then the same answer repeated to a third question, you know. Peter's deal to sell the orb is canceled when he brings up Ronan's name to the jewel man or whatever.
The collector.
The art guy.
The art collector, yeah.
The like a broker, I guess, you know, brokering a deal. He leaves, and then Gamora's just chilling there.
I think Gamora is like watching.
Yeah, she was sent to go find him, but I just find it's kind of funny. It's just like, oh yeah, she's introduced technically to him. She's just chilling. She's just sitting there, you know. He's trying to play it all cool, but then her, Peter, and then Rocket and Vin Diesel fight and are all arrested.
I like this scene a lot. Like they all like, and they're not like afraid to like do damage to one another. Like Gamora literally like cuts arms off of Groot, like
and
then or throws a knife at Star-Lord, Peter Quill there, and like cuts his hand. So like they're not afraid to like, you know, do real damage to each other. And at one point, like Rocket puts Peter Quill in the entire bag instead of just trying to steal the thing. They're like, let's just throw him completely in.
Well, remember their bounty is to get him. They don't know about the orb.
Oh, was it?
Remember, Yondu puts a bounty on him.
I just think it's funny that how they just threw him in a big bag.
He's just in a giant sack. He's not like tasered or anything. It's just in a sack.
Yeah.
It's just funny. I got 2 fun facts about this scene. Number 1, filmed in London on some bridge. Yeah. 2, so, you know, first off, Chris Pratt, I guess we'll talk about him. Fat. James Gunn really liked his 30 seconds of auditioning. And apparently he liked it so much that he was willing to let Chris Pratt stay fat if he really wanted to. If he didn't want to do the film because he would have had to work out, James Gunn was going to consider letting him stay fat and CG abs onto him. But Chris Pratt said, no, give me 6 months, I'll lose 50 pounds. And instead he lost 60.
And he looks great in this film.
And I mean, there's that glory shot of him, after being hosed by orange liquid or whatever.
Yeah.
And Chris Pratt was very much proud of that one scene because he's like, this is the peak I will ever be. Is right here, and I get to see it. But he's having to fight and all that stuff. And he's fighting Zoe Saldana in this scene, as well as maybe a couple other scenes. I don't know, but I'm thinking about this one specifically. So obviously for these kinds of fights, these choreographed fights, they need to practice. And just practice in general, fighting. So they're fighting and they're fighting and they're fighting in practice. They're wearing protective stuff under outfits or whatever. One day Chris Pratt forgot his protective padding and didn't tell Zoe Saldana because he thought she'd pull her punches. And she kicked him so hard, he almost broke a rib because of that.
God. And he's that jacked too. Like that's a good punch then, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But they're all arrested, and I always thought this is weird because, like, one of these guys is on a wanted list, and the other people are trying to get him. So why are they being arrested? But I guess it's just like a public, like, endangerment thing. But at the same time, that's what the job is. But I like Rocket calls them fascists when he's being, like, abducted.
Yeah.
Yeah. In prison, we learn that Vin Diesel can only say the phrase, I am Groot. Oh, and that everyone wants to kill Gamora. She's real famous. But like, this is what I find is interesting. Is this movie obviously wants to still imply that Ronan is the bad guy. So in these early parts when we're still talking about her and how bad she is, it's all in relation to Ronan and not Thanos.
Yeah.
Like the Mad Titan. Like at one point it says like, oh, she's working for a genocidal maniac. And they're actually talking about Ronan and not Thanos. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is where we get everyone gets hosed down. Rocket doesn't dry off before putting the clothes on, which I find gross. Like, towel yourself off, bro. That night, a crooked guard, because they're always crooked, lets some prisoners take Gamora. And when they try to kill her, we're introduced to Drax, who also wants to kill her, but Peter convinces him not to. And I like this whole exchange.
I mean, this is the beginning of like where I think it gets like I think Drax is like the best. Honestly, might be my favorite character in Guardians of the Galaxy because Dave Bautista just kills it, like with just playing this. We saw a little bit with it in our last movie with Riddick, where I think he kind of played a similar character, but not as over the top
and not as good either.
Yeah. This one
I wasn't too impressed, but yeah.
This one it was written, I think, for him to be that way, and he executed it flawlessly. I think he's probably one of the best actors in this film.
And he wanted to be in this movie so bad when he got the offer, he cried.
I believe it. I mean,
he burst into tears.
He's a real one. He always, like on social media and whatnot, he seems like a very another wholesome guy.
More Dave Bautista facts for you.
Hell yeah.
And I'll throw in a Bradley Cooper one as well. Dave Bautista collects vintage lunchboxes. So James Gunn gave him one of Drax.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then also, Dave Bautista, wrestler.
Yeah.
He gave Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana custom WWE champion belts.
That's... Wow, they're like one-upping each other in terms of gifts right now.
And I don't know if they were his belts or if it was just he got belts ordered. But he gave them custom championship belts. Yeah. This is according to Chris Pratt. So, but I inclined to believe him just because I find it sweet. It took, for the beginning parts of filming the movie until they really got a flow on it, it took them 5 hours to do Dave Bautista's makeup and tattoos.
I believe
and
it.
Dave Bautista would stand still, have his arms on railings, and he didn't complain one bit, according to Chris Pratt. He stood there, took it like a champ for fucking 5 hours. Eventually, their record was like 3 and change.
Damn.
But yes,
I mean,
yeah.
like, yeah, I don't think people realize, like, sometimes, like, how much effort, like, actors, the crew, and all that really put into, like, making these movies look good. Because, like, his makeup looks great.
And it's consistent.
8 years ago.
You know what I mean? Like, that's something that could easily be messed up, is what if one of the things is misaligned?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just...
Yeah, I never know how they ever do that, like, makeup, because I feel like it'd be so easy to miss something like that, like the tiniest detail. But to be fair, like,
yeah,
how many times are you watching a movie and it's like, I see that they didn't add the scar on the eyebrow or whatever, like, in the exact same place. But still, I mean, attention to detail. Tough.
Yeah. I think this is a good point to also throw out the one Bradley Cooper thing I have. There's other Bradley Cooper
they
facts, I'm sure.
They actually changed him into a raccoon. They had to do some crazy, like, witchcraft every time before they filmed.
He did say, though, that he made more money on this movie than the movie's Silver Lining Playbook, which I watched and really liked, and The Hangover combined. He made more money doing this, and he's not actually, like, acting. He's just a voice, right? So, interesting.
I still don't get how he does The Star Is Born in this movie. I feel like this voice can't come out of his body. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, then Drax is. We learn that, you know, Drax he's just funny. I don't know. This is where, like, for me, that character, like, was the unexpected funny character.
Yeah.
I was not expecting him, because I remember seeing the previews and whatnot. None of that was him being funny in it. They really did save him to be surprising. And I remember thinking, like, oh, he's just not going to be, he's just there to fill a seat type of person, like, whatever. But no, he was there for a purpose, and he stole the show in a lot of ways, in a lot of parts for me in this movie. But yes, Peter convinces him to not kill Gamora because he can get the one he's actually after if he keeps her alive. Thanos is introduced, which kicks off the bad guy's search for Gamora and the orb, and I love this. He's just like, boy, silent, like, you know, he does a really good job of, like, you know, Ronan is there and he's gestating and he literally kills a henchman person,
spokesperson,
right in front.
Whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, immediately is just feels diminutive compared to what,
he doesn't
like,
even
how,
do anything.
You know, Josh Brolin
it's just
is
like Thanos'
talking.
Aura that will just don't fuck with him.
Josh Brolin was filming something, I forgot what it was, when he was offered this, and he's like, sure. And he modeled it after some actor in some movie that he liked as a kid or something. It's like that's where the inspiration,
was
him from.
So he was always going to be Thanos, or was it just for this movie?
No, there was someone else as Thanos in Avengers that did, like, I guess the mocap for the face, and he was supposed to be Thanos. I forgot to write down who that person was, but Brolin basically was offered that instead, like, after the fact.
This will put a smile to my face.
And he's obviously very good in it, for sure.
Daddy Thanos.
The next day, Rocket dishes a plan in which Vin Diesel interrupts, and they have to quickly get the stuff they need to get out of there. And I like this shot, too. I feel like there was many takes for this. For, like, our characters in the foreground are going to be talking and stalling for long enough for Groot to walk in the background and comically, like, pull the battery out, but, like, not have anyone pay attention, you know, in the foreground, realize he's doing that until afterwards. Because I could easily see that scene kind of not hitting, you know, kind of missing. But I like this. Like, they need to get
a long shot too. I think probably the longest shot in the movie.
Speaking about shots, we also didn't mention we watched the IMAX version of this film. Disney Plus added recently IMAX versions of some of the films that had it. And for this, like, most of the space shots, almost every single space shot was IMAX. And I think pretty much everything in the prison here was also IMAX format, like, tall. Yeah. I was actually surprised that most of this film feels like it's...
Yeah, I didn't get what, like... Because in IMAX, the whole time does it switch, like, the aspect ratio, basically?
It does. It does? It's just smart about it, yeah.
I just never really noticed... I mean... Most of the time I see it at movies in the Dolby than IMAX. I think I prefer Dolby more just because of how loud it is, and I don't have to worry about someone talking or a phone or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of about the same as IMAX, personally. Maybe IMAX obviously is a little bit bigger screen, but...
Yeah, and that was the whole thing. But Dolby Vision, too, it just feels like it's better. You know, it's HDR, so it's, you know, it feels nice. But it's cool that, like, hey, you can stream, you know, the IMAX version of this film, because that feels like that's its own Blu-ray release. That's how they could nickel and dime. But it's cool it's in here. Some of the original Iron Man has an IMAX version on Disney Plus. I'm like, huh. And speaking about Iron Man, he was originally going to be a cameo in this film. He was going to pop up in this film.
In what way?
At least that was the idea. I don't know. But this was around the time that Robert Downey Jr. was saying in interviews how he's probably not going to be in the movies anymore because his contract was up or something. He's like, maybe I'll do a fourth Iron Man, but I don't know. And so they just said, you know what, let's just not. Let's focus on just trying to get him back in general. Then have him pop up in a scene.
If he might not even be in the next...
Yeah.
Avengers,
he was in like fucking 10 of these movies, it feels like.
Yeah. He got
3
paid.
Iron Mans, 4 Avengers, a Captain America, and a Spider-Man.
Yeah. And he's a lot in Spider-Man, too. It's not like he's...
Yeah, it's not a minor role. He's a supporting character.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, it's a big fun, you know, fight scene, just franticness. Drax even comes in and helps and throws Rocket a gun. Got Gamora trying to get like a computer arm thing off the guy, and Peter pays someone 30,000 credits or whatever for their prosthetic leg, which they didn't need, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
He's like, I just wanted to see what he would look like without his leg. That was pretty funny.
One of the
Because
best...
the leg looks kind of advanced, so you'd think, oh, maybe there's a use for it. Maybe they need it for something. But
and we get one of my favorite Drax jokes where, like, talking about metaphors and how it went over his head. They're saying, "Oh, it went over his head." He's like, "There's no way I would have caught it or whatever." Like, just so stupid. I love
exactly.
that joke.
Yeah. At one point, Peter and Drax climb Groot's leg like a ladder, and for a brief second, I can picture in my head, which probably didn't happen because the tree is CG.
Yeah.
But what if they made an actual, like, just made that in real life for them to climb as a prop?
They did. I'm pretty sure it looked physical. Like when they were initially going on it looked physical.
That'd be cool. That's what I kind of hope it is. That's what I hope. And I want to actually point out too, for a movie that's 7 years old, the CG looks pretty still good. Like I don't really see anything that I'm like. Than
some of the Marvel movies that have come out like recently, in my opinion. Like,
really,
I feel like it looks just cleaner and like it fits like because it's not like they're going for a realism, like full realism. There is a little bit in it, but like it's much more comic book cartoon almost, even like in terms of their color palettes and like some of the characters and whatnot. They look, you know, goofy in their own good way, but honestly, I think the CG looks great, and honestly better than some of the shit we've seen recently with like I saw Eternals, and I'm like, some of these characters look.
Yeah, there's a scene later on where Drax jumps and leaps towards the camera at Ronan, and it's very brief, but I can tell that was just a CG rigged character model that's being flung towards the camera. I will say about like characters and visuals, Gamora is green, and Zoe Saldana actually insisted that they paint her and not just CG her being green, because I guess that was suggested that they would just do it.
I always going to be a fan of like doing physical effects and makeup and whatnot. I just think it lasts longer, and I think if you have the team to do it, obviously I think it could easily be real bad, but they think they did such a great job that's why this movie looks so good for how old it is. And I think I can guarantee in the next 10 years, if you watch this again, it's still going to hold up.
And Drax in the comics is also green, but they decided for this movie not to make him green because Gamora's already green, and that gray showed up better on film.
There is one scene we'll get to
green.
With Gamora where I just loved like the whole like scene with like the color palette and whatnot, but we'll get there.
Okay. So they get out of there. It's a cool thing there. They like turn off the gravity and then use the giant like drones to actually pilot the room that they're flying in.
Yeah.
Till they get to the real ship and they head off.
Well, there was that whole scene of where Peter like has to go back to get the cassette, and so they don't leave him. He holds on to the orb, which I thought was, you know, And he does that later again in the movie where he shows he can outsmart people. Even though he sometimes plays a stubborn character, he can still outsmart you.
Mm-hmm. They leave, and they're heading towards a place called Nowhere. And I hate being nitpicky, but sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's just fun. So, like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Peter asks Gamora the coordinates of her buyer, where they should be going, because they're going to sell the orb and just make a bunch of money. And she says, we're heading in the right direction. Like, lady, this is a 360 degree, times whatever. Like, we could be heading just at an angle wrong. It's not like if you're on the ocean heading east, right?
Yeah.
But we could be heading down,
Yeah. I mean,
But,
I
yeah.
think this movie doesn't take space physics and all that seriously at all. And I actually love that it doesn't. It just it quickly throws it out the window, because at one point he's flying out in space. Like, he would just immediately crack into shards or whatever.
Your organs would rupture.
Yeah.
Is from what I've been told. Like, they would expel all your bodily fluids out of your body. Like, they just want to escape.
Yeah, but whatever. I like that they don't. So, like, to me, like, I don't think I even noticed that, because it's just kind of like them it's cartoon space. It doesn't matter. They have to get to where they get. But this is where this ain't really a spoiler, because it's mentioned in the trailers. It's a celestial head, and in Eternals, it's a lot about celestials. So it's kind of cool that they mentioned this, and I'm like, oh. And they actually still kind of match whatever that head looks like, what Celestials look like in that movie. So I'm like, cool. I'm glad they were consistent.
Yeah, I remember when Eternals was first announced, people being like, yeah, well, blah, blah, blah about this and stuff like, oh, that's interesting. Apparently in the comics, Nowhere is the Guardians of the Galaxy's home base. So, which is interesting. I gotta stop saying the word interesting in this fucking podcast. I've said it so many times.
I think
Oh
all
my God.
humans do. And I remember people would always say it when we talked about it, like in my history classes. People would be like, I found it very interesting that George Washington, blah, 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 blah. It's like, and my professor would always call us out on it. Be like, yeah, it was interesting, huh? Like, you should always just be, it's like, yeah, everything is just interesting, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's the best word to describe things sometimes.
One little fun fact, the galaxy that they're the guardians of is not the Milky Way. It's the Andromeda Galaxy.
It makes sense.
James Gunn said that in a tweet somewhere.
It makes sense, because there's no other like planets that we know of. I always assumed it wasn't the Milky Way. It was completely. I didn't know it was Andromeda, but I guess that, because isn't Andromeda like next to the Milky Way? I'm pretty sure
It's the closest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And that's where Mass Effect Andromeda takes place. Bet you didn't know that. Yeah. Okay. I just wrote down Vin Diesel gives a little girl a flower.
Yeah, I want to mention that I like that. I didn't notice it much until I think now that we're like hyper focusing on Groot, because Vin Diesel, that like his character Groot throughout is a very peaceful giant, very like peace first, violence and whatever like secondary, like only if needed. Like Groot seems to care about people's happiness and well being, and I think it's a little bit different compared to all the other characters. I think they pull that from him, that towards the end of the film, that like, oh, he cares about other people and not just being selfish. So
Yeah. And that's like kind of by design. James Gunn said that he is 100% innocent in this movie. He's just, with Rocket. Like, that's how he's in this. Well, the other characters, they always have some sort of bastard part of them.
yeah.
As they wait for their buyer to show up, Gamora and Peter connect a bit, but it's interrupted when they see Vin Diesel throwing down with Drax. Drax had been making fun of Rocket, and Peter gets them to stop. And, like, no one else... When they said... I remember thinking this back in the day when I first watched this movie. Like, they're fighting, and then, they're verbally talking about their issues or whatever. And Peter's, like, basically telling Rocket, just suck it up for another day and you'll be rich. And he says, like, 4 billion credits or whatever. I'm like, why are you saying this out loud in the outlaw casino? Don't say this thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even if they don't know what you're getting the money for, they can still just tell you. But yeah, no, I mean, like, this is where we get, like, the Kevin Bacon line introduction thing. It is a little weird that Gamora has never seems to have listened to music before, really, but I guess her upbringing kind of makes sense like that.
She was designed for war and
yeah.
combat, so...
I just remember my
No
first
fun.
time watching this movie and not really knowing anything like about that, thinking it was like, oh, this is some weird Earth thing being shown to the we don't have music type of thing. But in hindsight, I don't think that anymore. I think it's kind of what you said. Okay, so they meet the Collector, played by Benicio del Toro, who tries to buy Vin Diesel. Now, here's my question for you, Devin.
Mm-hmm.
If someone that you knew for a fact had a lot of money walked up and said, I can pay right now for your body when you die, would you do it? Assuming it was like an amount of money you'd be happy with.
I'm assuming the money would go
yeah?
to like family, friends, that kind of thing.
No. He's what he's saying is he was gonna give Groot money right then and there as a contract, saying when you die, I get your body. So if someone walked up right now and said, I can pay you.
I mean, it kind of depends on what they're using it for. I'm an organ donor, and like that's cool, right? But like,
put your body in a tank for people to look at.
I'd be down with that. That'd be cool. I would do that.
All right, here's $900,000.
900,000.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would do it for like, if
$40
my body is going to be like in a museum forever. Hell, like even like 100,000.
Damn.
Like, I mean, because like it's the idea of me, like I don't know what they see in me, but at least my tattoos,
what if the
tattoos would be
person-
worth, I guess, like longer lasting investments
true.
that'll be seen in a
true.
museum. If I'm just a naked
Now-
dude sitting up there, like the
Now, what if
like those museum about the human body? If I'm in like one of those, sure.
Yeah. Now, what if you find out after the thing that the guy that's buying your body after you die is a slave owner?
I don't know, all blood money, I guess. I don't know. That's a lot of what ifs. I don't know. I mean, I already got the money. I'm not going to return it, I guess.
That's true.
I mean, I'd try to invest it to like get rid of him in some way.
Remember when people were saying that Benicio del Toro had no purpose in that Star Wars movie? It's like, whatever. Fucking people suck. All right. He opens the orb. It contains an infinity stone, which practically blows up the place. And it's kind of cool.
She gets
visually.
evaporated.
Yeah. She gets Thanos snapped.
Basically.
In a sense, yeah. Ronan shows up because Drax called him. And everyone is fighting and flying. Ronan gets the orb and leaves. Gamora is dying in space, so in order to save her, Peter gets Yondu to capture them.
This is one of my favorite scenes, the one I was talking about earlier. The color palette in this is like just gorgeous because like she's green and the whole like background is a mix of like a dark green, some neon green, and then there's a little bit of orange, and then his like mask has the big red, laser eyes, and it just like great choice of like colors, and it just really makes this scene pop and adds emotion to it. I just really like this scene a lot. Like definitely one of my favorite scenes in this movie, like in terms of just visuals and cinematography.
For sure. Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. Yeah, and he's outsmarting. He's like, well, I know that Yondu's like in town, so I'll just get us captured because can't get back into the ship with one person or whatever. Like, I imagine too, like, even if they could cram inside there, there's no air anymore because he opened the door.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I agree. I find it interesting. Rocket, Drax, and Vin Diesel team up to go save them. I also like to Groot basically doing the what's it called thing where you poke a hole in their lungs to get the liquid cone to come out.
Which I still don't think I could ever do in real life. If I needed to, like, do it to someone.
To yourself? Oh, to
not
someone
myself.
else?
Definitely not myself. But even more so.
I guess if it was to yourself, you'd be dead. You just wouldn't be able to do it physically.
Because I don't really know where it is, of a general idea. But, like, I'd just be so worried that I would just stop their heart.
Miss? Hit the sternum?
Yeah, whatever it is.
You just bounce off.
The stomach, whatever. Yeah.
Oh my god, you pierced the heart.
It's like, oops. Well, I guess if they're already dying, you put them out of their misery. I guess that's the one benefit, I guess.
I guess, but if you were trying to save them. Ronan, now that he knows that the orb contains an infinity stone, turns on Thanos, and Nebula quickly joins him. But as I don't know if we actually find out in this movie or not. She really is just doing it to undermine him for Thanos anyway, type of thing.
Yeah.
I think.
I think she just plays like the best side, kind of, honestly. More of a just whatever side seems to be worth fighting.
But in that second movie, they definitely show how much like just trauma and abuse she's had in her life, because of this guy. So I can still, hey, we will watch that movie eventually.
Hell yeah.
So, it's only a couple years. They work fast. Peter convinces Yondu to help them get the orb back, and the Guardians have a big pep talk and huddle thing. This is where that Sean Gunn ad-libbed as Rocket thing comes in, where he says, now we're a bunch of jerks standing around in a circle or something like that. Or just standing up. Yeah. That was a Sean Gunn ad-lib. The real Rocket Raccoon is named Oreo, that they used as a little stand-in model for what a raccoon looks like.
There was one joke where he calls him let me go double check. Like, he calls him something raccoon, and I had to look it up, and it was an actual like magazine from the 70s of this
Ranger Rick?
Yeah, Ranger Rick, and I didn't know about it until I looked it up, and
really?
I'm like that's really funny that the magazine's like mascot is this raccoon with a backpack, and I'm like, that's really funny. I really like the references in this. I like that they specifically picked stuff that only Peter would know from when he was 8 years old on Earth, like in those 8 years.
Exactly. Yeah, so like they begin. So the assault on on Ronin's ship begins. They punch a hole on the exterior and board, and it's cool. Like, we're starting to get like 3 planes of action going, starting. I sent out a call to John C. Reilly, who was in the movie earlier.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, you're gonna all die. Please help us not help. Whatever. The Nova people form an energy barrier with their ships to stop the bad guys from landing, and Vin Diesel releases a bunch of glowing spores out of his arm.
That's cool.
Which I think is cool. Drax, when did you learn how to do that? And like, you just see like some interest. I don't really think, Drax had, I guess, before, but obviously we're leading up to the point where like they're going to be killing Groot off, so they really need to like really have some scenes with him in here.
And then I like that Nebula comes down and says this like big, not speech, but just, oh, get ready to fight, and then she immediately just gets wrecked by the missile.
With a rocket. Yeah. My favorite line in this movie, which made me laugh in the theaters, is when Drax says, "I'm honored, that you guys are my friends. Peter, you're my friend. The big drum tree is my friend. The green whore is my friend."
And then immediately afterwards, he's like, "No one talks to my friends like that," or whatever. It's like you're so toxic, dude.
I love it. But yeah, we have 3 planes of action now. Gamora is now fighting Nebula. Rocket and the Ravagers are protecting the city from kamikaze spaceships. And Peter, Drax, and Vin Diesel are pushing through the ship. This is where you get that Vin Diesel Groot just yelling as he's pushing his arm extended through people and just ripping them back and forth. I almost kind of want to rip that line out of the movie and use it as a sound clip of just Vin Diesel going, going berserk. Gamora gets the best of Nebula, and they all confront Ronin. They shoot him with that rocket thing, and it doesn't work, and the ship is crashing. And then Vin Diesel sacrifices himself to save his friends.
After Rocket, like, basically comes out of nowhere. I totally forgot about that part where, like, I'm like, okay, wait, I'm like, how does this go again? I'm like trying to remember, because I remember like the ending where, they crash land, but I'm like, how did they get there? I don't remember. And then this is when it all started coming back to me once the rocket came in with the ship, just like coming through and just basically, I think his mission was just if I can just take him out like this, I'm willing to die.
And it seemed more powerful than the rocket that was shot out of the missile that was shot out of the thing. Also, fun point of note here too, he was able to actually go into the ship because there was an open window because Ronan opens this front panel thing to use his hammer with the stone in it to destroy the energy barrier, and it was left open. That's how the ship was able to like crash in, because it was probably would have just bounced off some sort of energy window, I guess, that the ship might have had. Yeah. This is funny. But then we are Groot.
That was the line I used, because I'm like, I'm not gonna I didn't even remember that he said "we are," so I thought that was like that. That's the quote, obviously, because I'm not gonna just say "I am Groot." So, but yeah, exactly. I forgot he said that, and cool.
Yeah. On the ground, we have our final battle, and Ronan is destroyed. Everyone gets rewards, and the Guardians head off and leave. The end.
He does say, "The Guardians of the Galaxy" mocks him, and then he does the dance off there. Thought like, remember, you don't like it?
I remember at the time being like, what's going on? And then I understood it was a distraction, because I didn't, at that first time watching the movie, didn't catch that they all saw that Rocket was trying to quickly rebuild or fix the missile launcher thing, the giant chest piece thing. But like, I don't know, in hindsight, it just feels a little like out of character for the bad guy to just stop and be like,
me,
huh?
It's kind of like not like necessarily Marvel, but I feel like it's a James Gunn thing where like some of his characters are just pathetically dumb. Like honestly, like even this big bad guy, and I think it's supposed to just catch you off guard. I actually like that a lot. That's a memorable scene for me, because it's just it comes a little bit out of left field, but I think it fits with the whole Marvel goofiness, though.
For sure.
So
and Ronan too is like, he thinks he's won. He's doing this big old grand speech to people that are about to die. He's just doing it, you know what I mean, for himself. He feels powerful and godlike. So I can see him stopping his thing, because what are they gonna do? You know what I mean? But I do like though that Peter tries to throw the dance over to Gamora, and just like the shaking of no, like and embarrassed, like no, don't
even
pull me
in
into
this time of like we're all gonna die. Like even she's like, I'm still not gonna be embarrassed in my last moments.
Exactly.
It definitely like relieves the tension of like what's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, they beat him, and then
they all hold hands.
They say we are the Suicide Squad, and
exactly. Then they all get their records expunged, and they get the ship rebuilt.
We also find out Peter Quill is like half something, but which we find out more in the second one.
For sure. And which I forgot that they said that at the end too, because I knew, his dad is a living planet thing because of the second movie. I'm like, oh, that's how he was able to survive. And I'm like, oh, it's a neat thing to know in hindsight. And then they say, oh yeah, your dad's like not human. I'm like, oh wait, I guess they did just answer that, right then and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he opens up his present that his mom gave him 26 years ago, and it's another cassette tape that includes a couple songs, which interesting. Well, what was it? Really, just the first song that played was Jackson 5.
Well, no, it was Ain't No Mountain Higher, and then it was Jackson 5.
Yes, then Jackson 5. Okay. When this movie came out, Spotify had the official playlist of Awesome Mix Volume 1, and those two songs are in it. And I always remember being like, but they're not on Awesome Mix Volume 1. They can't put it there. The soundtrack to this movie, which is separate from any musical score, it's literally just the actual, licensed songs, became number one on the billboards for the first time that it had ever happened. Without a music soundtrack, without any original music in it, became number one on the thing. Yeah,
I believe it. I mean, like a lot of the songs are just classic, and I think it probably was just nostalgia and whatnot hitting at the right time. And like I said, some of our most favorite scenes are related to the music, like that opening sequence. And I'm sure people after watching the movie are like, you know what, let me look this up.
I gotta find out what that song was. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
According to James Gunn, upwards of 120 songs were he had a list and was narrowing it down. And he's been on Twitter a couple times saying, "Oh, I had this song in there, but I had to cut it, which is a shame." Or, I have one more final piece of James Gunn trivia here before we start ranking our stuff. James Gunn, whenever anyone on set, whether they be an actor, a grip boy, a camera operator, a guy with a clipboard, I don't know, whoever, if they ever did something like a really good job, he would give them a container of Play-Doh. Because he likes the smell of Play-Doh. And said that it really sparks creativity in his brain. So he gives them Play-Doh if they do a good job. It's like his gold star. He gave away 40 containers of Play-Doh during this movie.
He's goofy, but at least he's cool goofy.
Yeah, at least
That
he's
is
not
very weird, though.
Christopher Nolan beats people. Remember that when it incorrectly went out that he was like telling people that were standing still to get back to work type of thing. Remember that was like false. That wasn't actually true. He could also just be a jerk in real life, but that wasn't true. I don't know. If you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Yeah.
Fucking hate that. Cool. That's all my facts. I like this movie. Yeah. We now rank our Vin Diesel Chronicles of Diesel movies in two different forms. We have our movie ranking and our Vin Diesel performance ranking. So let's talk about the movie overall. And this being like, this is the first Marvel movie on this list of, I guess, 4. Jeez. Because he's in 2 Avengers movies as well. And I'm not saying this is
Does he actually say
type
anything
of thing.
in the other ones? I don't remember.
Yeah. He's teenage Groot, and he says, I am Groot in both of those movies.
I could have sworn, like, Endgame, he doesn't actually say anything. He just shows up. Kind of like how every character shows up.
He maybe says one line, but he's in it, and he's credited, and he got paid for it. Overall, for this movie, I like it quite a bit. I feel like it's obviously, in terms of like the Marvel scope, it's one of the classics. I feel like it's rewatchable quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember when we were going through our list, it was one of the ones that I highlighted of like okay, I'm excited for this one. And I remember like, okay, going into Christmas, we're gonna watch watch this. I didn't think originally when we figured out that we couldn't do those other 2 movies that we had to push everything up a month, that originally was supposed to be our Christmas one, but we are getting a Christmas episode, I guess, a version of Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know if it's this year or next year, though.
That's next year. We went over that.
Okay.
The Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special is next year, 2022.
Oh, I forgot to mention a fact that I found. Let me just double check here. I'm written on my phone. So Zoe Saldana, she directed, I don't know how many episodes, but directed The Ropes, the one thing that we didn't watch.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
Huh.
Isn't that crazy?
Interesting? We gotta find that and watch that still. Again, that is still our plan with these TV series and documentaries that he didn't star in. We're gonna do a thing about that hopefully at some point. And then, on this podcast.
I forgot her name. Let me double check. But the actor for Nebula,
Karen Gillian.
Yeah, she
something like that.
I didn't know that she was in Jumanji with The Rock.
Oh yeah, she's in that as well. Yeah.
I just like that's how good makeup is and how good the acting is, that you just can't tell if they're the same. And I think it's a good.
They managed to hide the fact that she's blue in real life for that Jumanji movie.
Yeah, and I mean, like some people are like, oh, I didn't recognize him. They maybe see it as a negative sometime, and I always think it's positive. I think it should be good that you aren't recognized in the character.
Yeah,
if you're doing a good job.
I was going to say earlier, I feel like this is obviously a classic. I feel like it's easily rewatchable, and you know that I'm the type of person that doesn't really like to rewatch movies.
Yeah,
like I'd rather do something else than rewatch a movie I've already seen. I'd rather play a video game I've already played before. If in my free time, if it
I'm
popped up
generally
and
the
watch a
same
movie,
way, unless it's been like a good couple of years, and it has been with this one.
Yeah, to be fair, it has been 3 years, but this is one of those movies that I could throw on in the background or something. Like this does, I am more capable or willing to watch this movie again.
Honestly, this
just
kind of feels like we're recording this on Thanksgiving in a weird way. Like I can totally see this movie being on like throughout the day when you have all your family over and you're making the food or eating around the dinner table, because we always used to either have football on or we'd throw like a random movie on, and it would always be something kind of like to this effect where it's like an action movie.
I think I literally watched this movie on Thanksgiving or some family. It was a family get together.
There you go.
After it came out on
It has
Blu-ray.
that kind of vibe. It has a very like fun for all ages kind of vibe. And I think that's why I think it's so memorable too, is compared to some of the other Marvel movies, which maybe take themselves too seriously or trying to be more of a teen to young adult audience. This movie, I think, is just overall like anybody can watch this, I think, and enjoy it in some way or form, whether it's the comedy, the Marvel shit, a little bit of both. I think that's what James Gunn is good at doing, is he can make a movie that kind of hits for everybody.
Yeah. So let's talk about what our movie ranking list is. Let me take a fucking drink before I start reading off all these names. They ran out of Cherry Coke Zeros at the store, and they also ran out of regular Coke Zeros at the store, so I had to buy a Cherry Coke.
Everyone's buying it for the harvest.
The harvest of souls.
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting more and more used to getting to whatever is in Cherry Coke that isn't in Cherry Coke Zero, but at first I'm like, gross. Okay, our movie ranking list is as follows. Number 1, Saving Private Ryan. Number 2, Fast 5. Number 3, Fast and Furious 6. Number 4, Triple X. Number 5, The Fast and the Furious. Number 6, The Iron Giant. Number 7, Riddick. Number 8, Awakenings. Number 9, Fast and Furious. Number 10, A Man Apart. 11, Find Me Guilty. 12, Boiler Room. 13, The Chronicles of Riddick. 14, Pitch Black. 15, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. 16, Knockaround Guys. 17, Wheelman. 18, I almost said the Pacific. The Pacifier. 19, Babylon AD. 20, Los Bandoleros. 21, The Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena. 22, The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. 23, Multifacial. 24, The Chronicles of Riddick, Dark Fury. 25, Strays. And 26, Riddick Blindsided. I want to mention, too, Devin tweeted this out on Thanksgiving. Images that we made of our rankings, so you have a visual too. If you could find quickly on our Twitter,
a long list, so if you need
at
a visual.
Sonic Movie Show. I think from this point forward, I'm going to suggest people get that visual aid so you can look at it, because we're just an audio only podcast. So get that visual on the Twitter at Sonic Movie Show, so you can decide where you want to put it besides listening to our voices. I think that this movie is top 5. Do you agree with that?
I think, to be honest with you,
at the very least.
I know. I think, to be honest with you, this is the one that's finally going to do it.
It's going to be number 1?
I think, honestly, like, out of all these movies for me, like, the more I think about it, and, like, after watching it again and being hyped to watch it again today, I'm like, honestly, if I'm being real, am I going to watch this movie before all these other movies probably again? It's definitely up there, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I love Saving Private Ryan because I think it's a masterpiece film, but this movie's just fun, like, just straight up. It's one of the best Marvel movies to me. Like, there hasn't been a Marvel movie I feel like that's hit in this type of energy since maybe the second one. I actually prefer this one more than the second one in my opinion, but I understand people liking maybe one or the other. But just like, the characters are great, acting's great, comedy's great, story's great, visuals are great. Like, it's all great. Like, there's not, like, we just did the whole movie. We didn't at any point, like, really like, man, this really sucked. And we've done that with other movies. We've done that with Saving Private Ryan. Like, there's a couple of scenes where we're like, oh, I think this could have been done differently, or we wish it went in a different way. So to me, like, on it, like, I don't know why, but, like, that's what my heart's telling me. Heart of hearts, just being real. Like, I think it might be, at least for me, top 3.
Okay. I throw out the number 5 minimum, top 5 minimum, because I also agree with you. My only holdup is that I do just like Fast 5 more, but I also like Fast 5 more than Saving Private Ryan. So this is where, like, individual lists versus the one that we come up together, clash and whatnot. I will go in with you on this, though. I will go in because I do like this more than Saving Private Ryan.
We've had Saving Private Ryan for some time, and then I think eventually, if like, I remember when a couple months ago, I know we mentioned at some point, either on air or off air, that, like, is anything going to take over Saving Private Ryan? I remember this was one of the ones where, like, maybe. And after watching it again, I think this is my 4th time watching it, and I'm like, Yeah,
And
I just like it too much. Like I really do.
Yeah. No, I mean, and the movie is just great. And again, like it gets me who doesn't like to rewatch movies to rewatch the movie. You know,
that's usually one of our like tiebreaker things for us. I feel like is like, when are we going to watch this again? Will we rewatch this again?
Right.
And like I've seen,
I will
Saving
probably
Private
never
Ryan.
watch Saving Private Ryan again.
I've
to
seen
be
that
honest.
movie 4 or 5 times too, like growing up, and like I think I prefer more of a fun vibe in terms of. I'm not saying I don't like serious movies, or I like Blade Runner, and that's a very serious film, but at the same time, sometimes it's fun to just put on a movie and not have to think
and just have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Saving Private Ryan has been on this list since episode 3 at number 1. And if we're being real, it's the first like real movie of consequence starring Vin Diesel. You know what I mean? Awakenings, sure, but like that's like, is he really in it? Type of a thing. You know what I mean? And it's finally dethroned that. I'm with you there. So number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy. 2 is now Saving Private Ryan. 3, Fast 5. 4 is Fast and Furious 6, and number 5 is Triple X. We bumped Fast and Furious, the Fast and the Furious, out of the top 5.
It's crazy, but it feels. I don't feel any like negative. I mean, I just feel positive emotions compared to.
There was a time in which Triple X was number 2.
Yeah, I know. I still like that movie a lot.
Crazy. All right, let's talk about what Vin Diesel's like performance was in this movie. And I know leading up to this, it was like, well, it's going to be interesting how we do that. And I didn't think about it since. So like he says 1 line, technically 2. If he has 4 words, he says, but he has more than that. He has some anger. He has some shock. He
some
mocapped, which we didn't know that he did. You know what I mean? So I'm pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised watching this again, his performance in it, because I thought it was kind of more like, oh, they could have just gotten any voice actor to do it type of, they could have gone cheap, so to speak, because he says 1 line and he just says it in different tones, but he's way more involved. He says it in more ways than just a singular tone as well, that, well, I also knew from watching it the first few times, but like paying attention now on purpose, stands out more. I think it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of people just will easily say. I mean, we've talked about this on the show plenty of times, but maybe for people who are their new first episode of this show, the reason we even did this show is because we had a general theory that maybe Vin Diesel, people think of him as just like a whatever actor. Like we think he's much better than that, and we think that there is a lot of shine that he has, and maybe people just haven't watched the right movies. Maybe people don't look at it from his whole career perspective. Because there's some actors who are like, oh, that actor is great, and they've done a lot of stinkers, and they're bad in those movies. But people forget about them because they did a lot of great movies. So I know like our journey with this show has always been like, has Vin got better over time? Has he got worse? Is he bad in these kind of movies? Is he great in these kind of roles? And we're kind of still figuring that out. And for me, like, I feel like since we have the perspective of all these other films and knowing what he's capable of, and seeing this now and being hyper focused on it, to me, it's better than like, Iron Giant. And I think that was his first voice acting role. When we've seen him do real bad voice acting roles in some of the video games and the side series there for like Riddick and whatnot. So for me, like in terms of his voice acting, I think this is the best one we've seen him at. But it's gonna be so hard for us once we do the Vin ranking here. That where am I gonna put that above his physical presence?
It's tough
because he did do mocap, like you said, but most of it, a lot of it is CG and whatnot. So like getting that physical presence is more on the camera work and the artists who make the tree,
right?
But so like there's that, because I think some of the roles like Fast and Furious, he relies on his physical presence to do the acting. Maybe he doesn't say anything; he just stands there and looks, menacing or whatnot, to access his character.
Yeah.
So like it's real tough, but it's definitely like in the positive column for me.
Yeah, the only thing that can hold it back is he's not the main character. You know what I mean? He didn't steal the show either. I say Drax stole the show.
Yeah, I would
in
agree,
terms of
generally.
not being what you would expect.
And Chris Pratt was perfect in this movie. Like he needed to do what he needed to do
for sure,
and he was the main casting.
And Bradley Cooper's fucking Bradley Cooper, and everyone loves Zoe Saldana, so you know what I mean? Like, but that just takes away from Vin's potential to outshine.
I mean, it's a
others.
star-studded film. You know what I mean? But like, it wasn't like he was.
They got John C. Reilly to be in 2 scenes.
Yeah,
You know?
but I think that's okay though. Like, Vin doesn't need to be always. I think if he, stole the show, then obviously that'd be an easy number one. But I don't think he needed to be in this role. I don't think they wanted him to be. I don't think anyone was supposed to be the main character. I mean, like, obviously Peter Quill's supposed to be the main character, but really at the same time, not, in my opinion. Like, the story revolves around him, but everyone has their moment of shining. Everyone has their cool fight scene or has their cool one-liner or whatever it is. Like, they did a good job of like giving everyone space, but at the same time, like, Groot has some of the main important things in this film too. But like, it's more of the writing and not Vin. But still, I think it's important to point out that when he had to do those scenes, he did them, like, efficiently and did a good job.
And I mean, like, as we learned in this episode, how he even got the role was because of passion. You know what I mean?
He walked on stilts.
Yes,
who does that for like no other reason to what he was doing? You know what I mean? Like, no one does that just for fun.
Unless they're practicing to be in a parade.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, most
Yeah,
actors
I
probably
understand.
wouldn't do that.
Let me read off for you, Devin, the Vin Diesel performance ranking list. And folks at home, make sure you pull up that companion tweet that has all of the visuals for it. Number 1 on the Vin Diesel performance ranking list is XXX. Number 2, The Fast and the Furious. Number 3, Fast and Furious. 4, Find Me Guilty. 5, Fast and Furious 6. 6, Riddick. 7, A Man Apart. 8, Fast 5. 9, The Pacifier. I said it right this time. 10, The Chronicles of Riddick. 11, Babylon AD. 11, Babylon
Can I just
AD.
say that I always think about Babylon AD in the most random times. Like, it's still
Really?
maybe that movie should be higher, not because it's necessarily great or anything, but just because like it had such a weird impact on me that I think about that movie way too much. Like, just randomly we'll be watching something and be like, man, what a movie! What an interesting
Weird
film.
movie. I remember when they put like the eyeball thing on him too.
Yeah.
Weird. 12, Los Bandoleros. 13, Boiler Room. 14, Multifacial. 15, Pitch Black. 16, Knockaround Guys. 17, Strays. 18, The Chronicles of Riddick, Dark Fury. 19, The Iron Giant. 20, Saving Private Ryan. 21, The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. 22, The Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena. 23, Wheelman. 24, The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. 25, Riddick Blindsided, and 26, Awakenings. This is tough. I think this is better than the Iron Giant if we want to compare apples to apples. So at the
Above
very
19.
least, right? But I think we can knock it higher than 19. I feel like, I don't know. Knockaround Guys, I didn't really care for his performance.
That's where I'm
in Knockaround
looking
Guys.
right now. I'm feeling it like that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, it's above Knockaround Guys, but I'm like, is it above? Is this performance better than Pitch Black?
That I don't know.
It's so hard to compare these two. One's more voice acting with mocap occasionally, and the other one is he's in it and he's doing stunts and he was the best actor in that movie.
And he stole the show. That's why he
wasn't supposed to even be the main thing, and he became the main thing.
Right.
It sparked
and
a
everything
franchise.
else above it is even better. So it's an uphill battle, literally, to try to get. Yeah, I mean,
And I think the only reason that hurts it is because the kind of the criticism that we've heard is that, he only says 4 lines. Yes, I think that is a fair criticism that but yeah, that was the role he was given. But I think he did a great job in those, with using that vocabulary and whatnot. But at the same time, I think that only hurts him because he had to deliver more different types of lines.
true.
It's just so tough because I feel like that's not fair because if he didn't that's the character. You know what I mean?
True.
But if
Yeah.
he executed the character perfectly, shouldn't we be giving that more praise? It's like, go back and
it's
forth,
tough. Okay, then do we want to say at least he's at number 16?
Yeah.
The minimum?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at what we have above it. So 15 is Pitch Black, 14 Multifacial, which is his indie film he made, is short.
Yeah.
13 is Boiler Room. Let me pose this question to you. And this is a loaded question, because literally recency bias. Literally. But which is this more memorable than his roles in Boiler Room? Or Multifacial or Pitch Black? And again, loaded, right?
Yeah, because we just put Guardians of the Galaxy at number 1 too.
And we just watched this movie today.
Yeah. So it's real tough to
and it's been over a year since we watched Boiler Room.
I mean, I think that one scene, which
we watched once.
Boiler Room, that one scene of him on the phone call was like, I think that was the first thing we were like, yes, this is close to what we think of modern day Vin Diesel, and I think that's an important part of that movie. It's a touchstone for our podcast too. Yeah, it's also important. Yeah, for this podcast and.
Okay, so he had one really good scene in that movie.
Multifacial. If I were to director and all that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
It was his all. If I were to say though, because one scene in Boiler Room that really stands out to you, to compare that to Guardians of the Galaxy here, the one scene that I feel like really stands out to me is when he says "We are Groot," and how emotional I felt. I cry during movies. I didn't cry this time because this isn't my first time seeing the movie. I did tear up when the mom was dying at the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. But like, I didn't tear up for this one. But it's still like it's an emotional beat for sure. And I feel like
if he just said
really
"We are
well.
Groot," like it would have been like, wow, this is real bad. Like he put emotion behind it. But yeah, in every other scene he's great. Like
just throwing that out there. Yeah, and exactly. But can you say that about Boiler Room? I think he was just okay throughout that movie.
Yeah. You know what? Let's put it above Boiler Room. It sucks because I think Multifacial, it's tough because he put a lot of work in, but at the end of the day, the quality wasn't as good. He put the work in. Sometimes you put the work in, the quality ain't good. You know what I mean? That's sometimes how it works, or isn't received how you thought it would be.
I like fighting to get things as high as they can on these lists. I really do.
We give everyone a fair shot.
Yes. We try to convince ourselves that they're not number one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Talk us down from the cliff.
So it's above Boiler Room. I think it might be above...
Now it's...
Not like Los Bandoleros. Like, he directed that, and I really liked because that was different compared to his other director work that he did. Because remember, he directed that, produced that. And it was such a different Dom. Not fully different, but just... with the camera work and whatnot, just made a different experience with Dom, even though it was super short and it was interesting. So I'm like, I don't know. But I feel like it could be, I could hear an argument for why this would be better.
Yeah, the things above it right now is Guardians of the Galaxy currently sits at number 13. The things right above it is Los Bandoleros, Babylon AD, and the Chronicles of Riddick.
Damn, I'm even thinking honestly, Babylon AD... But once again, I don't think he was bad in Babylon AD. I think everything else was bad.
I actually kind of liked him in Babylon AD, though. I think he played a pretty good,
Yeah. I'm just thinking of the movie.
I've done this before type of
the movie, I think.
Which is tough, right? And the movie was very bad. That's why it's 20 on our movie ranking list. It's underneath Wheelman and The Pacifier. And Tokyo Drift.
It's true.
I think I'd find if we leave Guardians of the Galaxy at number 13, though.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think we'll leave that
Los
there.
Bandoleros is cool.
Yeah, so basically Chronicles of Riddick, Babylon AD, Los Bandoleros, Guardians of the Galaxy, Boiler Room, and Multifacial are your 10 to 15 range. We're in that middling tier. We have 27 things on this list.
Yeah, crazy.
And we're about to add 28, 29, and 30 next month, Devin.
Oh, shit.
Next month, we are watching Furious 7, as well as its 2 companion pieces, Wiz Khalifa featuring Charlie Puth, See You Again.
I can't wait.
And Fast and Furious Supercharged, which is a Universal theme park ride. However, folks at home can find the 7-minute YouTube video that's a pretty nice steady cam, full HD. You know, I watched a little bit of it to make sure it's real.
We'll have to tweet that out ahead of time so people know.
Yeah.
To watch it. We'll do like, hey, this is what you should watch. And we'll have like that
same
clip.
thing with the Wiz Khalifa video.
Yeah.
Because apparently he's in that.
Hell yeah.
So.
I can't wait to dive into Wiz Khalifa.
Sets up for the docket for the new year, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting. In my spreadsheet, I wrote it as January 2021.
That's crazy to think because it's still like I'm like no, we have a whole December. I keep it's the whole like month ahead thing.
You always struggle with this.
Yeah. I'm like damn, 2022. Fuck.
Crazy. Yeah, and I mean we're again like we said this before. We're getting closer and closer to finishing, his filmography up. Because after Furious 7, we have The Last Witch Hunter. Then a movie called Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. Triple X Return of Xander Cage, then Fast and Furious 8, then Guardians 2.
We have a heavy docket coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited. So this has been the Chronicles of Diesel, a monthly podcast that you have listened to and enjoyed for 21 months in a row. Congratulations. You're welcome. And we appreciate you. As I mentioned earlier... our podcast's Twitter account is called @SonicMovieShow, and that's because we do another podcast called The Sonic Movie Show. That show's weekly, covers the Sonic news, movie news, and Sonic movie news, and random movie reviews of video game movies. We have probably already seen a pretty good one that probably just came up. Hopefully, fingers crossed, because we haven't actually seen it yet, and we haven't recorded it yet because it's Thanksgiving the day we're recording this.
The theater could burn down or something.
Exactly. Yeah. I paid for my ticket online.
Yeah,
where I used the thingy for it, so I have an invoice at the very least. But yes, let us know what you thought about Vin Diesel's performance in Guardians of the Galaxy, and go ahead and give Maria Menounos a shout out because she saved today. She gave us the scoop on how the hell Vin Diesel got into this role. Mm-hmm. She broke that news. So big shout outs to Maria Menounos. If Maria, if I can call you that, Miss Menounos, you're always welcome on the Chronicles of Diesel.
Always. We have some people, we have a lot of people who are welcome, but there's some people, but there's some people who aren't. So don't think
there's a list of people that are welcome, but like don't inconvenience us. You any time of the day, any time of the week, any time of the month. I mean, we record once a month, so like really the one time.
Even
but
honestly, SMS, even though it wouldn't maybe fit fully, but we'd make it work.
Let's stream Warzone map making. Let's do a Warhole together, Maria. If I can call you that. Okay. This has been the Chronicles of Diesel. We love you. We appreciate you. We respect you.
We're thankful. # Thanksgiving.
Merry December.
Merry
Goodbye.
Christmas. Xmas. Vinmas.
What is it with you? What do you got, a death wish or something?
That's what it takes. I just want to race. Ride or die, remember?